Welcome to TOOP TV, everybody, and I hope it's a great show. We're looking at all of the moves in June and moving house, and we've got some tips to make life a bit easier for you. Now also we go down to Mawson Lakes and have a look at a fantastic property for SA's finest. So remember, we're live and interactive, so get the calls going, emails going, and we'll answer the questions at the end of the show. How good? No interest rate rises this month. Yes, well done, Reserve Bank. Congratulations, guys. And we didn't need that interest rate rise, I can tell you, and it didn't happen, so that's fantastic news. Now, later in the show, the top 10 tips for investors, and they're excellent tips. Well, I guess we'd say that, wouldn't we? But we reckon they're really good tips for you. And the inside story on why June has been statistically shown by RP Data, the masters of stats, to be the best time in Adelaide to sell your property rather than spring. So let's go and have a look at that right now.
In springtime, the flowers are in full bloom, the sun begins to shine again, and more people put their houses on the market believing it's the best time to sell. But the latest statistics have put a dampener on this theory, where June has proven to be the busiest time for property sales in Adelaide. According to RP Data's Cameron Cusher, while spring sees the greatest number of listings, there is evidence to show that these do not convert to the greatest number of sales. The proof is in RP Data's most recent report, which shows the total number of sales in June is around 1% higher than the spring average. The reason for this being, in winter, the number of properties put on the market bottoms out, leaving buyers with fewer options. This gives sellers the competitive advantage. But are there any other factors contributing to this boom in sales? Here are some of your thoughts.
Perhaps people are having more time in June to look around the properties, even though you don't want to go out in the cold. There's plenty of other things to be doing in the warmer weather, so you do them and do your property hunting in the winter.
Well, as far as I know, come spring and come summer, when your garden looks the best, is the best time. I think whenever the property market's down, that's the best time to buy.
I would have thought spring would be better a selling time. Maybe people don't go away at that time of the year and can have time to look around.
Fascinating to hear those stories. It's exactly what happens in our life as well. People relate the weather and the fact that it's a nice time, everyone feels good after winter, with house sales. In fact, it's relating to the number of transactions, and that report is an excellent report. Be sure to log on to insidestory.toop.com.au and read the full RP Data report. It's compelling reading. Now, speaking of reading, we've got one of the top journalists in the country with us today, and joining us in a minute I'll say who it is, but it's Anthony Keane, who of course is the editor of the money section of the Advertiser. And Anthony, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anthony.
And you might say, why am I holding a Penny's Hill agreement? This agreement was an agreement between two Anthonys, Anthony Parkinson of Penny's Hill and Anthony TOOP. So mate, you're
excellent.
The threesome.
Oh, excellent. Thank you very much.
So I hope you enjoy that.
Thank you.
Now, Anthony, you are the editor of this publication in particular, which is Your Money.
That's right.
And it's a national story, and it's put together every week. It's compelling reading. Can you give me the history of Anthony Keane, and then we'll move into some details?
Yeah, sure. Well, look, I've been editing the Advertiser's Money section for about 4 years now. Before that, I was a business editor at the Advertiser, and I also got a diploma of financial planning and left the media for a year or so to work as a financial planner before coming back. And look, Your Money, it became a national lift out July last year. We now, from Adelaide, produce it for not only Adelaide, but we also produce a section for Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane and Hobart, and some North Queensland newspapers as well. So
Anthony, you're coming from a financial planning background and a finance background. Tell me, this is a property show, tell me how property looks to you.
Look, property looks good to me. I love property as an investment. I also love shares as an investment, although that love affair's waned a little in the last few years with our horrific share market. But look, I really believe that any investor needs to have a bit of both. But yeah, look, property has been good to me personally, and I've seen it be good for so many investors. And if you just look back over the last 20, 30 years, which is how you really treat investing as a long-term thing, that the gains have just been fantastic.
A couple of recent events. Yesterday was no increase in the interest rates. What's your take on interest rates?
You were right at the start, weren't you? It was good news. After sort of half a dozen of them in the space of just over 6 months, it was a good breather. And look, the economists that we're hearing now have got mixed views on as to what's going to happen next. Some think that we may have another one as early as next month. Some think we may not have any more rate rises for the rest of the year. The key thing that's going to affect that is we've got quarterly inflation data coming out, I think on the 28th of July or around then, and those CPI figures, that's what the Reserve Bank bases its interest rate moves on. If they're a bit too high, they'll probably put their foot on the brakes again and give us another rate rise.
Anthony, there's a lot of uncertainty. The share market's been all over the place. We've had a lot of instability in the economies. If you were a property person, bear in mind you're not a real estate agent, so we always talk it up, but talk to us about your feeling as a financial person about Adelaide property in particular.
Look, I think that Adelaide property has a brighter future ahead of it than most of the other states, if not all the other states. Last year there were some big gains in some of the eastern states, particularly Melbourne, but Sydney was also big. We were sort of quite moderate. We just seem to have a lot of factors working in our favour. And look, I was a mining and a resources writer for years before I became the money editor, and I've followed that sector closely, but never has it had such a good outlook. The new projects that are taking off, the BHP's Olympic Dam project is going to be massive, and it was given a nice free kick last week with the changes to the new mining tax. It's been left alone.
The new Prime Minister?
New Prime Minister. Thumbs up? Thumbs up. She's certainly helped...
For South Australia property.
Exactly. She's helped mining in this state. And the other key industry is defence. We've got thousands of new personnel coming here. We've got sort of new ships being built here, the new battalions. So they're both massive employers and big growth industries for the future.
Now, Anthony, I know you didn't write the section, but in 2 weeks ago in the Financial Review, you probably read it. It had 2 full pages in a national publication about the impact of the defence industry on South Australia. Do you agree that it's a 40-year injection into our economy that's going to impact, or what are your thoughts?
It's a massive injection. That and mining, they are both ultra long-term factors that are going to affect prices and investors. And look, you hear a lot of this doom and gloom around the market.
You heard the big meltdown stories? Yeah.
Yes, I'm getting bombarded with emails all the time saying that we've got a 40% property price collapse coming, that the government's pumping up the price with extra borrowings. And obviously, yeah, there's been a lot of borrowing of money to buy property, but you also look on the other side and there's a lot of people talking supply and demand. There's an undersupply of houses, not only here but also around the country. There's rising demand for houses. And look, the weakness in the share market's probably only helped that.
Anthony, that's been fantastic. We've got a few more questions for you a bit later in the show,
Sure.
But in the meantime, let's go behind the blinds and have a look at how things are panning out in the property area.